Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge, where we're actually in the lounge.
We are here. None of this on-site business.
Right, some kind of con business.
We're house mice now, not mall rats.
Yes, we're lounge lizards.
Yeah. Welcome to the Blue Ribbon Lounge, where we fill your ear holes with what, Davey?
The knowledge you didn't know you wanted.
Yeah, you didn't know you wanted none of this, but you're getting it.
Yeah, you might need it later.
You know, I've found that, I feel like. And I feel like the episodes we've done now, I see them in the whole world.
Yeah.
I can't look anywhere without seeing synchronicity.
Synchronicity's there. Or if you like, I don't know, you see a Bigfoot somewhere, and you're like, oh,
that's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I heard all about him on the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
Right? There was a Bigfoot lady that lived in Russia.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I told you about it on the Bigfoot episode.
Right. Yep, I do remember that, definitely.
She had some name like Susie or something like that.
That's a Bigfoot name.
Yeah, you should go back and listen to that one because the villagers, you should listen to that one.
I should just go back and listen to some of them. I'm really slacking on re-listening.
Well,
to retain knowledge. My problem is retention.
Retention.
Yes.
They have that goldfish problem.
Yeah, I have mercury poisoning.
Too much tuna?
Yeah. Too much alchemy.
Alchemy.
Which is the episode we're on today.
Yes.
Brought to you by Alchemist of Stones. Supports this podcast.
Alchemist of Stones.
Yes. Shout out to them. Check them out on Facebook. They got a lot of cool looking rocks and such.
Yeah, and they like to go do those. Well, I don't think they're cons, but they're, what would that be called? Swaps?
Like a show. Gem and rock shows.
Yes.
Is what I've always heard of.
Gem and the holograms.
Is that from the show Gem? Was that show?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And yeah, that was the band.
Yeah, okay. So, Alchemist.
Yeah.
Alchemy.
Alchemy.
Alchemy. Alchemy.
I have alchemy in front of us that I think alchemy is part of creating.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, okay. You got a definition or anything? We'll start that off so the people know.
Oh, what alchemy is?
Yeah.
You mean the medieval forerunner of chemistry? Based on the supposed transformation of matter, it was concerned primarily with the attempts to convert base metals into gold or to find a universal elixir.
That is correct. The seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or combination. Alchemy, baby.
Yeah. And the universal elixir is a universal medicine supposedly containing a recipe for the renewal of youth.
Excellent. Yeah, what I found a lot in here is in medieval times, because it was definitely the precursor for chemistry.
Yes.
But it seemed like alchemy definitely had the one of two desired outcomes, which would be creating your metals into gold,
wealth,
or eternal life. Wealth or eternal life.
Yeah.
Which time is money, so it's kind of maybe both.
Right. Oh, probably both, because I think if you can purify your base metals into gold, then somehow you can purify yourself into being young again.
Yeah, which I've always wondered what people's reasons for like desiring gold so much throughout the ages is. And yeah, it's a pretty metal, but from what I was hearing in this research, gold is one of the least corrodable materials.
Right.
Like so pirate ship treasure at the bottom of the sea, those gold doubloons aren't getting corroded by the salt water.
Right.
Like many other things do.
Mm-hmm. Like the cannons.
Yeah, cannons and even I guess silver and lead and all those things, those can eventually be corroded away in many other ways.
But not gold.
Not gold.
I've also, in my research, they were saying something like back in the day, they think that since the sun was golden, and then when they found gold, they thought it was actually crystallized sunbeams or sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, no.
I was diddling with stuff. I forgot.
Oh. You go blank when you start diddling?
Oh, yeah. You know me, Dave. I can only do two things.
Yeah.
Talk or diddle.
Right.
Too busy diddling.
Too busy diddling.
So what'd you bring for us, Davey?
I found these beers that are brewed in Iowa.
Ooh, that says Iowa right on the can.
Yeah. Single Speed Brewing.
Ooh, Tricycle Cream Ale.
Mm-hmm.
I like how it has a...
Waterloo.
I like how it has a bio sign on it.
Yeah.
Is this safe to drink, Dave?
I think so. I think it's supposed to represent the three wheels
of a tricycle. You ever ridden a tricycle?
Oh, when I was a kid. Big wheel, for sure.
Oh, for sure. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
Tricycles are kind of hard to steer. You got to like lean into it.
Possibly.
Well, and you know me, Dave. I got to go a little fast.
Yeah.
So hitting those corners on a tricycle, you're leaning.
Yeah, you got to lean into them. Yeah. You got to make sure you got a good suspension in the back.
Yeah, you got 3 wheels, but only 2 on the floor, baby.
Right. Like that was a big thing about big wheels. You'd get going, but then you would like start burning out.
Yeah,
because that front wheel wouldn't go catch all the time.
It was so much bigger than the back wheels.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you got here?
I was trying to see here.
Can't read it, huh?
No, it's just it says resting
on?
upon 3 wheels, each with different stylistic visions. Well, I was trying to read it to see if there's anything interesting on there at all.
Start it over, though.
Resting upon 3 wheels, each with different stylistic vision, sits this hybrid ale. Wheel number 1 romanticizes about cream ale. Wheel number 2 longs for American wheat, while wheel number 3 is captivated by the pale ale. Peaceful, they spin to the center of the room, and a tricycle is formed. Balanced by just enough hop character to remain upright, together they roll into a sweet, citrusy state.
Right on.
Right on.
What a imaginary poem on that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I wonder, did they hire somebody to write that for him?
Yeah. I mean, it was nice.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more fantasy for a beer than
it wasn't like, oh, mixed with the best hops and the distilled water from the mountaintops of the whatever mountain is in Iowa.
Yeah, Single Speed Brewing is at in Waterloo, Iowa.
Yes, it is. Please drink responsibly. Government warning. According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages.
At all.
Oh, wait, during pregnancy. Yeah.
Oh,
is it going? Oh.
I was shaking mine up pretty good.
Okay.
I got the jitters over here.
I was like, I thought we had another pirate episode on our hands.
I'm so out of the podcast routine from going to the Ren Fair last weekend.
That's not bad. It's got a little bitter on the top.
It is a little bitter. I think it's a pretty drinkable beer for all things considered. I wouldn't say I'm a beer snob, but I'm just like, just give me something cold and drinkable, and it doesn't even have to be cold.
Yeah, I don't know. It's creamy. It doesn't really taste creamy.
Yeah, that's an all right one. I'd suggest you pick it up if you're into beers.
It's definitely got that like
I think the cream is on the aftertaste. I think.
Yeah. It was very drinkable because you only get the bitter after you stop drinking.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you have a Sprite.
I feel it on the front half.
Really? On the front
personally.
half? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, like on a Sprite where you take a sip and then it like burns the back of your throat.
Yeah, where you're like, glug, glug, glug. Better get a good gulp in because you know it's going to be all spicy. Yeah. But the Ren Fair...
Oh, yeah, which was kind of like a lead up to Alchemy, I suppose, you know?
Ronaldo's Fair?
The Renaissance Fair.
Oh, Renaissance.
The Bristol Ren Fair, which the lovely folks of, I'm a fucking idiot, Alchemists of Stones, they suggested that. Also another friend of the pod, Chris Wingday, he suggested that too. He went, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. And it was a really good time. The place was huge. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of people dressed up. A lot of people not. Had some beers. Had some turkey legs.
Is that the one that's like set up all summer?
Yes.
And they do different like themes?
Yeah, we went for marketplace days.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm not sure what it's like other days, but there was a lot of people selling stuff. My kid got like a sword and a shield, and then I got a shirt.
A shirt?
Yeah, I had a pretty basic outfit. I had cut and sewn myself a cloak.
All right.
Which was really cool. I really enjoyed wearing it. And it's like one of those things where it's like it was kind of shitty, but I made it, so it like felt really good. It's like when you make brownies, and like maybe they're not the best brownies you've ever had, but they're like stepped up because you made them.
Yeah.
And then my kid was really immersed in it. He was dressed up as the Black Knight from Monty Python.
That's awesome.
And there was 2 other Black Knights there. One was way littler than him, and one was way bigger. The older one we saw first, and he came over, and they had a battle, and my kid cut all his arms off. And,
that's cool.
And it was really fun. Everybody we ran into was really nice. And my wife went as like a mad seamstress, kind of like Mad Hatter inspired, but
seamstress.
Yes, she had like a top hat that was a spool of thread. She had like a leather belt that had a bunch of scissors and stuff hanging off of it, a bandolier of threads. She went really all out.
Oh, that's cool.
Excuse me. And then, my kid did a zip line. Oh, and a little more synchronicity is we went and did this escape room there.
Yeah.
And it was, the theme of it was the Alchemist Plum Bottoms Lab escape room. And there was like a periodic table on the wall, and everything kind of had to do with elements.
Oh.
It was pretty cool.
Win?
No, we did not.
No.
We were like 2 steps away. There was 8 of us in the room. Me and my kid, I think, were the only 2 people that have done an escape room before.
Okay.
So I was kind of directing people. I don't. Have you done an escape room?
No.
They're a lot of fun, Davey. We should have a little Blue Ribbon Lounge outing. And so there was a lot of people just kind of like standing around not knowing what to do.
Right.
And so I'm like a big fairness kind of guy.
Right.
The world is not fair, but I try to make it so much as possible. And so I'd be like, if there's somebody in the corner not doing anything, I'd be, hey, go grab this thing and try it over here, and kind of directing people to try things. And
strangers?
Yes, it was me and my kid and 6 other strangers.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot of fun, though.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think if we went back, all we did was really walk around, go into shops. But when we go back, now that we kind of know a little bit lay of the land, it'd be nice to go commit to more shows and things like that.
Yeah.
Now that you don't have to absorb everything, that you can kind of pick and choose and sit down for a little while and enjoy just some of the shows.
Right. So it's kind of like Vegas a little bit.
It really is. It's like medieval Vegas.
Where you're just walking down the strip, you're like, that looks cool, but let's see what's up here. Oh, that looks cool, let's see what's up here. Oh, that looks cool. And then you don't end up doing like the show stuff, but you get to see the whole thing.
Yeah. A lot of trinkets. Every shop was really like specialized. We saw a local artist there, Wild Cherry Spoon Company.
Oh, you talked about them. They made you a wooden spoon.
Yeah. He was there, and he was like carving stuff outside, and he was dressed in the garb too.
Yeah.
Everybody that was working there was dressed up in the garb, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, it was, we like walked in and hit a couple of shops looking kind of for food. Once we got food and walked like another 100 feet, and you couldn't see the gate anymore, I felt fully immersed. I was like, there's no way we're getting out of here.
Right.
Yeah, it was really cool. They had jousting and stuff like that, and they even had like fighting nights, like just on the ground fighting with weapons and full armor and stuff. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to going back, if you can't tell.
So made you feel like you were in the movie Knight's Tale?
Yeah, definitely. Felt like I read a lot of fantasy books. I felt like I was, a D&D traveler entering a town.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they have like it's called a Ren quest, that there was a bunch of us, and I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to pay a bunch of money to then get sidetracked. Yeah, it was $20 to do the quest.
Yeah.
And you get like a pin at the end, and I didn't want to pay for a bunch of pins that I wasn't going to get if we got sidetracked, which we ended up getting sidetracked, so I was glad I didn't put a bunch of money into that. But
yeah, because you're like, you either do the quest or you look at everything.
Exactly. And next year, do the quest, see some shows, things like that.
Yeah.
My kid and my wife's business partner's kid, who's like 7, they shot real crossbows,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
they were really good at it.
Yeah.
They're like uncomfortably good. Like these kids could kill us.
Well, when the world falls apart, find your kid a crossbow.
Yeah, no kidding.
And Daryl Dixon it.
Yeah, Walking Dead style. All right, that's enough about me. How about you, Dave? What'd you do? Anything?
What I do?
Eat anywhere? See anything? Any movies lately?
No, not really.
You didn't go see the Barbie movie?
No, that doesn't look interesting to me.
Oh, okay.
No, just kind of chilling, really. Just like local adventure stuff. Uh-oh.
I unplugged it because...
It's making that one noise.
Yeah, but it'll sound better now. And we have plenty of battery.
Okay. When was the last time we did this?
The Potty Pod? 2 weeks ago.
Oh, we did the mall one.
rats.
Yeah.
Which was weird. I think I'm out of the routine because we did it all weekend, and then I just edited it on the Monday instead of recording.
Yeah, and I can't remember. I don't think we did like a out and about section there.
No, we didn't. Maybe.
No, because I went to Wisconsin, went camping.
Oh, okay, yeah. How was that?
It's good. It was Prairie Sheen,
Prairie du Chien?
whatever you want to call it. Prairie du Chien.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen it written down.
That's
just the way
that's
I've
what it
heard
looks
of it.
like, but it's Prairie Sheen.
Oh, okay.
It's like one of those weird ones because it's one of those weird Midwest pronunciations. I think. You know how like
as opposed to Milan and Milan.
Yeah, or there's they call it like Tripoli, but it's Tripoli.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it could, if you say it, it's like Prairie du Chien, but if you try to say it like French Canadian style, it's
okay.
Prairie du Chien.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Because it is where like it was a lot of, I want to say Hopi Indians.
Mm-hmm.
They lived there before the mound builders.
Okay.
And then it was taken over by like French fur trappers.
Okay.
Before, then us Americans came in and took it over.
And Prairie du Chien'd it up.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad because it's right across the river on Pikes Peak.
Okay.
So we went up there and checked out the bluffs, and got some food. But Prairie du Chien was weird because it was 4th of July weekend. And you would think that like their little like cozy like main street with all the cool looking buildings would be open.
Yeah.
But everything was closed.
Yeah, that's what I never got about retail. And God forbid they get a day off, or
I know, right?
Which is kind of a win lose either way you look at it.
Yeah, but if you think if a lot of people are going to be doing touristy things, and you have a touristy looking town, this would be the days when you would have it open for the tourists, know? Because McGregor across the way is where we ended up finding a place to eat, and they're all like, mountainy looking bluff town.
Okay.
And their main street was all tore up, and only like 2 restaurants were open.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
What a bummer.
Yeah, but it wasn't too bad. Went camping.
Yeah. Are you thinking about going back?
I would definitely go back.
Okay, cool.
Because the bluffs right there, there's one campsite, like camping area that everybody was at, and you can get campsites that are right there on the bluff, so you have like the perfect view.
Yeah.
And
that's super cool.
the ones we were at weren't too bad, but it definitely wasn't the ones that were all filled up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't want the powered sites or
and that's the hard
neighbors
part.
and stuff.
Yeah, that's the hard part about going on a holiday.
Yeah.
Everybody's out doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the days you get off sometimes.
Yeah, and you make the best out of it.
Oh, for sure. And you're good at that.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
I'm always on the sunny side.
Sunny side up. Yeah, Alchemy, over 2,000 years old. The birth of modern chemistry.
Yeah. In the beginning, there were 3 types of alchemy: Chinese, Indian, and Western.
Okay.
And the Chinese one was tied into Taoism. And then the Indian one was close to their Dharmic kind of religion.
Okay.
And then the Western one was more like, we'll take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. So it wasn't like wrapped in like Christianity or like Protestant, but because they're that thing it's all fractured.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's just tied to one, but they do, their philosophy has a lot to do with, Christian teaching kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and that'll come even more into play later in the years after they, really start getting rolling on this alchemy stuff. And what I found was this Zosimus of Panopolis.
Oh, yes.
He lived in Alexandria, Egypt in the 3rd century A.D. He was one of the first to describe the Philosopher's Stone, which is supposed to be a stone which is... Oh, here's his quote. This is it. There is a stone which is not a stone, a precious thing which has not value, a thing of many shapes which has no shape, this unknown thing which is known to all. And that's his quote about it. And it's supposed to be a red or yellow substance that was thought to be able to transmute mercury or lead into gold. Also believed that it was able to grant eternal life, and touching the stone would transmute all things into perfection.
Wow. That seems a little much.
But very, almost religious.
Yeah. And some of the things that I heard about, different people, they, created it or they found it, but if it's a stone, but then it's also a mixture of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a Falconelli.
Okay.
Who was supposedly the last alchemist, is what they said. But he was said to have created it, and they said it was of kind of dust, because he, in 1922, with the help of his apprentice, and then there were a couple of witnesses, he was at this laboratory,
mm-hmm.
and used it, and they said it was some kind of a powder that he mixed with mercury and lead
mm-hmm.
to make gold. And then he also used it in 1937 at the Chateau del Rey in front of a chemist, 2 physicists, and a geologist. And he used it to turn 220 grams of lead into gold,
mm-hmm.
which is only 7 ounces or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a lot.
Mm-mm.
And then they also said he could turn silver into plutonium.
Whoa.
But I don't know what they would need plutonium for back in the 20s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know when they started messing with that a lot.
Yeah, well, and even before then, even in further back alchemy, a lot of it was just figuring out what you could do.
Yeah.
Before we had microscopes and things like that, it was kind of a little bit of mixing things together just to kind of see what would happen.
Yeah.
And the problem that a lot of alchemists had was that a lot of them used code words.
Yeah.
It was kept kind of secret. It was they put a lot of stuff out there. They wrote a lot of books and stuff, but they would use words and stories in their writing called decknamens, and it would be a word or a story that implies a different type of procedure or a different material. For example, the example I heard was tin might have been put into writing for actual tin, the metal, or it could have been a code word for silver. And they used a lot of art and imagery within it.
Yeah. There was this guy, Nicholas Flamel.
Okay.
Flamel. He was a French scribe and a manuscript seller, and after his death, he got the reputation as an alchemist, because they believed that he created / discovered the Philosopher's Stone, and thereby achieved mortality.
Mm-hmm.
But he got famous after his death because his wife was a widower, and she was wealthy from that, and his scribing business got attached to the church or the college. Mm-hmm. So then all his money was tax free. So then he kind of had wealth, but then there was also a little depression. So him having if I only have $10 and you have 100, that's a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it seemed like he had more wealth.
Oh, okay.
But they would also like do the philanthropy stuff,
Yeah.
where they like, you know, help repair churches and orphanages and get murals painted and stuff. And he actually had one on for his like mausoleum, and it was the basic like supposed to be the picture of like Saint Peter and Paul, and then there's the two people representing him and his wife that are getting judged.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, well, that's the normal picture, but in his, underneath them, there's like two dragons fighting, and usually the people are naked because they're bearing their souls to be judged, and there's all these little different things on it.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, oh, like that's like a Freemason type thing. Like he's an alchemist because all this stuff represents how you can make the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm. It is very Freemasony.
Yeah.
With like the imagery being not of what it looks like, as well as like hidden secrets and things like that. Yeah, I had heard about Nicholas Flamel, that he was supposed to have succeeded in turning mercury into gold, and there were records. So he was, he claimed on January 17th, 1382, that he claimed to have succeeded turning mercury into gold. And then even when he was supposed to have died or disappeared or something, it was said that there were records of him and his wife being spotted years after their death, and looking no older than they were, and also even with a gold tint to their skin. This was 10 to 20 years later, and even as late as 1818, a man claiming the name Nicholas Flamel appeared in a Paris coffee house offering to give the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, but everything I've read, like the stuff had been written after his death, where they said that he was acquiring books about alchemy, and that he happened to get his book the Book of Abraham, which in the Quran, I guess it says that God told Abraham how to make gold.
Oh.
And so then Abraham, in the Book of Abraham, has the secrets on how to do it.
Okay.
And it's a big sought out book by alchemists. And supposedly, Fumel found it, and it's like he was trying to decipher it and had to go to Spain and find a Jewish guy to help him like translate it. And he found this Spanish Jewish priest, because he just converted to Christianity. Got him, they deciphered the book on the way back to wherever he was from, Alexandria or Paris. They actually made a little portion of gold, and then this Spaniard mysteriously died.
Okay.
And then so like they think, and then after that, all of a sudden they had this money and they started helping out the churches and stuff. Yeah, and that's kind of, but that was written after his death. It wasn't like someone during the time.
Yeah, it could have been an embellishment or something.
Yeah, just because that fresco or whatever that he got had all that symbolism, they were like, well, this guy was an alchemist.
Yeah. A funny thing that I kind of heard was that most alchemists use mercury and sulfur, which could create ingredients of like blasting caps and gunpowder. And so this caused many alchemists, without, being maybe the talent or the caution, it would cause a lot of them to have explosions that, injured or killed them. And that just makes me think of like any time you see like a scientist in a cartoon or like a comedy movie, when they like an explosion happens and they walk out and they're like, their face is all black and their hair's all like blasted back.
Yeah. Well, they do also think that the Chinese alchemy is where we got gunpowder from. Mm-hmm. Because if you think back, most of mixing earth and stuff together is very shamanistic.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then the Chinese had fireworks.
Yeah.
A lot longer than
Yeah.
the rest of the world.
Well, it's all because of them why we now have bombs and all that.
It is their
and
fault.
stuff.
You're right, Dave.
Yeah. Without them, we wouldn't have bullets. We'd still be just slashing each other with swords.
And going back to the Christianity portion of it, excuse me, in 1317, Pope John the 22nd decided that all alchemists had to be stopped, and he caused, or he made all alchemists surrender all manufactured gold to the public treasury for the poor, and if they couldn't provide evidence of how they earned it, and it was manufactured, they'd be punished, put in jail, sometimes to death.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I had seen was they'd make a huge spectacle out of it, and even going into the resurgence of the alchemy in the what do you call it? The Renaissance time. They would like make things out of gold, like they would hang them from a gold noose and like dress them in gold to kind of like take like another stab at them before they finally died.
Like you made this gold against the wishes of God. Now you have to wear it while you die.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also heard that like I think it was like Henry III or something during that time that you could actually, if you wanted to, you could petition the king to get a license to practice alchemy.
Well, yeah, in the Renaissance of the 16th century in Europe was a big turning point where alchemy became something within these larger courts. Like every court would have a jester and an executioner and an alchemist, and it became almost like a position of like a sign of power. Like, well, we have our own alchemist here.
Yeah.
And Rudolph II in the 1580s, he was one of Europe's most powerful monarchs. He had over 200 alchemists working for him.
Jeez. I just heard like Queen Elizabeth, she was really into alchemy and she kind of wanted to dabble in it herself, but because she had so many other duties and she was kind of a, she wasn't kind of, but she was a lady. And back then, that was frowned upon.
Yeah, ladies can't do anything.
Yeah, but so she got her own personal alchemist and then would like sit with them and be like, oh, like kind of direct them what to do, but not actually touch the stuff.
Yeah.
Because then
how crazy she was, like a queen or whatever, and couldn't even do it.
Yeah, because they'd be frowned upon.
Yeah, that's silly.
But there has been women in alchemy though. There's Hypatia, which is the earliest female scientist in recorded / alchemist in recorded history, and she studied and taught astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy, and she was an alchemist, but her claim to fame was distilling water.
Oh, okay.
Because someone has to do it first, and in alchemy they thought when you distilled something, you're actually like not purifying it, but kinda you're bringing it down to its soul. Like they thought everything had a soul.
Okay.
So when you distill it, then you just have the soul of the item, and then if you do that with water, it's got a bunch of crap in it, and then you just have clean water and you drink it, you're like, oh, that's pure, which it is, but you got to it in a weird roundabout like woo way.
Yeah, and that goes back to like with alchemy creating gold, which is supposed to be the most like pure metal that can't be corroded, this distilled water that is pure, and then all going back to like they thought that like metal grew in the earth kind of like a plant, as opposed to now I'm pretty sure it's like pressure and mixtures and time create whatever metal is down there.
Crystals grow, metal compressed, gets pressed.
Had you heard about this Theophrastic Bombastic von Hornheim, or he was also known as Paracelsus?
No.
He gave alchemy a new purpose within healing human suffering. So he created some cures for disease and other ailments. He was the first one that determined that like miners didn't die because
they were kids.
Well, he determined that they didn't die because their digging upset the mountain gods or something like that.
Those kind of miners.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my. But he determined that it was actually when they're in the mine, they're breathing in dust, mineral dust, and that was creating their early deaths.
Yeah.
As well as when syphilis hit in Europe from explorers coming back from the Americas, he sought the cure in mercury by making it not a non-lethal dosage to the human body, which all alchemists are really, or not all, but a lot of alchemists worked a lot with mercury because they thought that was going to be the base metal for creating the gold.
Yeah.
And he was also have claimed to create human life. And it was of like a miniature human being called a homunculus.
Homunculus, yes, those are crazy. Have you ever seen the YouTube? They used to have them, like if you go down a rabbit hole, where a guy was like trying to do it, and then he was showing like how it was growing in the vial, and then it like I don't know, like
popped out and danced out. Or?
Well, no, like he's like has it and it like shoots a thing and grabs onto the pencil and stuff. And it's pretty freaky, and it looked realistic enough, you know.
Yeah. And it was probably a long time ago where CGI maybe wasn't so...
Yeah, that's why it's like, oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, so he had published this recipe for creating a homunculus. And what you do is you put human sperm inside an airtight glass tube for 40 days buried under horse manure. And then you magnetize it and then feed it human blood for 40 days. And he had published this, and many other alchemists claimed to have created these homunculus, but apparently none were ever displayed or seen.
Yeah. That's because they used to think that inside a man's sperm was a
tiny
person, and it would just grow.
Oh.
But it needed like a catalyst, which was the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And being male chauvinist, they're like, well, if we can get the human to grow without the woman, then it would have some kind of like superpowers because it wasn't diluted.
Woman,
Yeah, it wasn't part woman. That's kind of where that started.
And it ended. This homunculus stuff ended because he had claimed that he felt bad for creating a creature without a soul, because being created by human, only God could give you a soul.
Right.
Is what he claimed.
Well, we'll find out when the AI takes over. And I have a book, and they talk about how to make, not necessarily homunculuses, but how you can make microorganisms just with like distilled water and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy, and it's been repeatable, but...
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it can also be like you have to have super distilled water, because any water might have something in it, and if you just put it in a dark spot, it might start growing something.
Yeah.
Which back in the day, that could also happen if you have like swamp water or whatever, like stream water, and then you're doing all these tests, and all of a sudden something starts, like a little tadpole starts swimming around.
Yeah. You just happen to get swamp water that had a bunch of frog eggs in it or something. Huh. I didn't even consider that. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's interesting to me to come up with ideas on what really happened to things that seem impossible.
Yeah. Or things back in the day where they're like, look what I did. And then like science catches up and they're like, well, actually you didn't really do that. This is that. And
yeah.
And I think that's why, well, not necessarily with alchemy, but with any science, in early science, a lot of people would get pissed off and have lots of arguments.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, oh no, the apple falls because of centrifugal force. And they're like, no, actually it's gravity, because weight, the bigger something is, the more it attracts. And they're like, no, it isn't. And then they fight, and then someone gets slapped, you know.
And then a duel, and somebody gets shot.
Yeah. Sir Isaac Newton was an alchemist first, because when his dad died,
Isaac Newton, discoverer of the laws of gravity and motion, the inventor of calculus, and the reflecting telescope.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know.
Tend to stay in motion, bodies in rest tend to stay at rest. That guy.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard for me to get up out of bed.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. But when his father passed away, to like get his mind off it, he really got into like alchemy and like natural sciences and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of knew, like the historians knew that he dabbled in it, but this one guy was like collected all these like writings and papers that he could find from Isaac Newton, because there was a conglomerate that was trying to buy these up just to sell them for a profit. You know, kind of like an investment kind of firm.
Yeah. Get one of Isaac Newton's journals here.
Or no, just like, we're gonna buy it all up. Let's pull our money. We'll buy all this Isaac Newton stuff up, and then we'll go to auction and we'll make a huge profit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was like trying to get everything he could, and all he could get was kind of the scrap letters. And he started looking at them, and it like Isaac Newton wrote over 1 million words on alchemy, and conducted decades worth of alchemic experiments, and he did them all in secret. But they actually, when the guy was looking at it and reading it and like translating it, because of course he used the ciphers and stuff too, he ended up turning it over to a university and being like, I think this is like the most, like his life's work was more this than like gravity and the laws of physics. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Where just what we know of Isaac Newton and the laws of physics is just an like a side effect from him studying all this alchemy.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like it's like what you, when you go through history, a lot of times the only things you pick up is either the good stuff or you only pick up, one detail about a person or an event.
Or like this is their big discovery, but honestly they were like working on all this other stuff. It wasn't like that was their life's thing.
Yeah. At the age of, or in his 50s, it was said that Newton sent a bunch of letters to his friends and family of like wild accusations that potentially never happened. And he had a bunch of ailments, including memory loss and sleeplessness, which are all results of mercury poisoning, which again, mercury is one of those things that
the alchemists use.
Yep.
Well, back in the day, I could see that if you found a liquid that's a metal because it's attracted to magnets, that would probably freak your mind out.
Yeah, you would think that there's something special about that. Well, and then Carl Jung, also, famous for his psychological studies, a former student of Sigmund Freud, he stumbled upon ancient alchemy after researching many of his patients in like kind of crazy dreams that had nothing to do with their lives.
Yeah.
And he found that a lot of these dreams had something to do with alchemaic imagery, like the dragons and the strange symbols that they used, like the Masonic type of symbols. And he kind of thought that that alchemy was like God speaking to us through images and metals and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's how he developed like the whole way he did his psychotherapy and analyzations and stuff.
Well, that's goes along with that. The other part of alchemy, where it's like the purification of metal and then the purification of yourself by the getting younger. They also like, there was some quote, I should have wrote it down, but when I was listening to this stuff, I had other stuff going on. But while they're trying to purify the metal, the alchemist is actually purifying themselves, because it's also like a way of thinking.
Yeah,
it's like a meditation kind of also, and they thought that you have to be like kind of like a Buddhist thing,
pure of mind,
and that you become one with what you're doing, and so that's kind of how you get that sorcerer's stone, or like the philosopher's stone, is by like becoming one, like, get that one zen moment where everything comes together, including you as an element.
Yeah, like the focus of not being distracted.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of his work, it seemed like, was. I didn't go down too much of Carl Jung, but it seemed like he was taking like the id, which is your subconscious, and bringing those things forward to your conscious mind and clearing out the unpure thoughts of like your daily not being in the moment.
Yeah.
Which also goes back to like using mercury and sulfur and a lot of other materials that are in like gunpowder, to where, you have to be meticulous or else you're going to blow yourself up,
yeah.
which happened to a lot of
right.
historic alchemists.
And I was just thinking, when I do art sometimes, have you ever been drawing and you're like, this is really good, and then you're like, people are going to think this is really good, and then you're like, oh, I have to make it good so people can see how good it is, but then you're kind of missing the point of the art.
Yeah.
Because the art is for you to not think about the big picture and just think about doing the art.
Yeah. I go to I'm in a new therapist right now, and it's all art therapy.
Oh, okay.
So every time I go in, I'm drawing art.
That's cool.
And she had me take a pencil in each hand and just draw whatever came to my mind. And I just find it so hard to be like, just draw whatever,
Yeah.
I need like almost a prompt to be able to draw stuff.
Yeah. And in that situation, I don't know, because you also have someone who's going to look at it when you're done.
And analyze it.
Yeah.
And tell you everything about yourself.
So you're like two stick figures with guns. No, wait, they're giving each other flowers. And like,
yeah.
Because that's kind of like, have you ever tried that auto writing where you just move your hand and don't think about it and then put it on a piece of paper and then see what you got?
But that's auto writing is like a thing for ghosts, right?
Or like psychics
Mediums.
or fortune telling.
Yeah.
But then when you're doing it, you're like, okay, well, I'm just doing circles. So then you start doing like this. So then you start thinking too much about it. And then you're like, well, then you're controlling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we started off on the manipulation of natural elements, and it's really just a metaphor for the mind.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, because we're all connected.
That's true.
Yes.
One great thing. Another throwback to the Presidente Rama in 1912. Herbert Hoover, the former president, and his wife translated to English the historically famous book Del Re Metallica, or Concerning the Nature of Metals. So I just thought that was interesting.
So Metallica is the nature of metals?
They are the nature of metal.
That's fucking pretty interesting. There was Isabel Cortez, who was an alchemist, and back in the day, they used to have books. People would write books and be like, The Secret of Da Vinci, or The Secret of so-and-so. And they were kind of self-helpy kind of books for people to read. And she, was an alchemist / scientist, and she published a book, and she sat on it for a while until she was like, you know what, I can publish this. Just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I can't do it. And it was like The Secret of Isabel Cortez, and it became like a super hit because it had a bunch of practical recipes for like how to make perfume, essential oils, how to distill water, how to melt metals to make jewelry.
Oh.
So it was like all that alchemy stuff, but for practical home use. Like,
that's cool.
Sure, you can find a book like that now, like Witchcraft for the Kitchen or something.
Yeah. Another crazy invention.
But she was the first female alchemist / scientist to get published.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Which goes to show women can do it.
Yes.
Another crazy thing that came out of alchemy was Johannes Gutzfleisch zur Leyden zum Gutenberg. Johannes Gutenberg. He was born in 1468 in Mainz, Germany. He was a metallurgist that created a process to mass produce movable type, the printing press.
Oh, okay.
and he created this he created the machine out of mixing lead, tin, and antimony to create like a light malleable metal to create the letters and stuff. And then he was also the first person to start using oil-based ink.
I wonder if that's the precursor for aluminum.
The antimony?
Yeah.
Well, tin, like
tin
and lead. Or
maybe, I don't know. Or it's
we're armchair.
I know aluminum is. I don't work at Arconic, but it would have to be like steel and something, right?
Let's see.
Because before it used to be tin foil, so maybe it's tin and steel. Because I don't think there's lead unless there is.
I think aluminum is its own thing.
It was like a mineral?
I think so. Aluminium.
Oh, I thought maybe it was a mixture of something.
That's what I thought too. But maybe it's like aluminum gets put with a bunch of shit to make other things.
It could be. I don't know.
Me neither. And this Google search isn't coming back on.
Not working. Okay. Yes. Have you heard the Count of Saint Germain?
No.
He came up when I was doing the research for vampires.
Okay.
But they think he could. They say he could have been an alchemist because he spoke many languages. He was a master of many instruments like the violin and piano and everything. And they said he studied alchemy, science, and the arts. And people would call him the man that knows everything.
Wow, what a high title.
I know, the Wonder Man.
Wonder Man.
And the man that doesn't die. And
sounds like a vampire.
They don't know where he came from, but like he would have knowledge on like all the countries and like all this stuff, and he would like disappear and then show up 10 years later and still look the same.
Yeah.
And then like, lay some wisdom down, and then when it got too much, like people are starting to ask too many questions, then he'd disappear again.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't really look him up too much because it didn't really say.
Put him on the list. Look that guy.
Yeah. About the alchemy too much. It was just like, hey, and then when they're like, oh, and then someone thought that they saw him over here in 1920, and then over here in 1945, and then over here, like, yeah, I should have wrote more down, but it didn't say.
That's okay.
It was more about him and not about alchemy, so I was like, yeah.
That's the hard part because I always feel like I get kind of off on other topics, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go back to that. Go back to that.
And plus I said, like, it also came up in the vampire one, so it's like, well, was he an alchemist or was he a vampire?
Well, maybe he was a homunculus.
Or maybe he's just, an immortal.
Yeah, it's interesting how this Philosopher's Stone is supposed to make you immortal, but in a good way, and then vampirism would make you immortal in a bad way.
Yeah.
The last thing I have written down here is Harvard University in 1941. There were a couple of physicists who used a particle accelerator to blast 400 grams of mercury with high-velocity neutrons, and they did, in fact, transform a tiny bit of that into gold.
Wow.
So it is possible.
By slamming neutrons into it?
Yeah, just pound it with neutrons.
Okay.
High speed, high velocity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible. And I don't know how gold is made naturally. I would imagine that information is out there.
Yeah.
Because all of this stuff is just, how is it formed naturally? How to take a natural process and do it in your laboratory.
Yeah, well, they can make gold now because you can buy. Oh no, that's diamonds.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, because I'm like, I know there's something where you can get the lab grown, but that's the diamonds, not the gold in the band.
Yeah.
But I also read, even though most of the people, I think they published a lot of stuff, but anytime they were trying to make the Philosopher's Stone, that's when they would encrypt it and stuff because you don't want people to know your secret.
Yeah.
But
you'd think a scientist would have been able to figure it out by now.
You would think.
Well, I guess they did in Harvard University, 1941.
But they don't have the immortality thing yet.
No.
but
not that they're given to the
public.
shills like us.
Yeah, but a lot of that stuff, because they would share like stuff like how to distill water, how to make essential oils, that kind of stuff. It's been, they would test it, and then they would get their friend to try it, and if their friend got the same results. So it was kind of a precursor to the scientific method also. Where you'd be like, make a hypothesis, test your hypothesis, see if it's repeatable kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I do have some other stuff. I don't know. Well, so this says in the 13th century, the English friar Roger Bacon, he invented gunpowder specifically on mistake, is what I heard.
Okay.
But it was also rumored that he could summon the devil. He had created a talking brass head and a mirror that could predict the future. And in 1284, the Pope at the time jailed him on charges of heresy, and he spent the rest of his life in prison. But going back to that devil thing, when the church was really ramping up to crack down on alchemists, along with mercury, one of the big elements that alchemists would use is sulfur.
Oh, yes.
And back in the day, that was known as brimstone. Mm-hmm. So if they came into your lab and it smelled like sulfur, they just kind of assumed that you were talking to the devil or summoning him in some way. And that's how a lot of them got,
It's fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I just have, if you want to make elixir of immortality at home.
Oh.
I got this.
2 parts whiskey, 1 part.
You're close. From twistedalchemy.com. It's a ½ ounce watermelon juice, 2 ounces vodka, 1 ounce aloe vera liqueur, and a ½ ounce of lime juice, and then garnish with a bay leaf.
Oh, okay. And talking about that, what it makes me think of is the Alchemist's Cookbook. You ever check that out?
The Alchemist Cookbook?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's the Anarchist Cookbook.
I've seen the Anarchist Cookbook, but I'm not going to say that on somewhere on the internet.
We'll beep it. We'll beep out that whole thing so I don't look so much like a dummy.
Well, there could be an Alchemist Cookbook too. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because I got these cool science books handed down from my grandpa, and they're like
Alchemist.
Well, it's like electrician stuff at home, and shows you how to use magnets to make a little miniature high-speed rail and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's little chemistry books out there.
Oh, definitely. I had one when I was a kid. I got one for my kid when he was younger.
Yes.
Mixing sulfur and mercury in the little test tube, blowing yourself up.
Yeah, it's sulfuric acid.
Yeah, crazy stuff like that. Well, that's all for me, Davey.
That's all I got. This one, it was interesting, but I will put a little caveat on it where it is the precursor to chemistry.
Yeah.
And if you're not really into reading chemistry books, to look this stuff up is a little, it can be a little dry.
Yeah, and there was the first beginning of it, all it was this philosopher's stone and turning mercury and sulfur into gold is really all I heard from 100 AD to almost up to 2000.
Yeah, until they started using the same processes to make like I said, perfumes and distilling water and making beer, or probably learn how to make because you're distilling stuff, so of course you're gonna put molasses and yeast in something and then distill it, and then you find out if you drink it you get drunk and you're like, let's call this rum.
Yeah, and all the alchemists were like, I don't want to fuck with that mercury shit no more. Let's keep making beers.
Let's just keep doing this. What if we put some hops in it?
Yeah, but kind of like what you were saying earlier, it's like all these offshoots came from it.
Yeah, and
I would almost bet we probably just nicked the surface of the most popular things.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to
Sorry.
You'd almost have to buy one of these ancient books to see what these other people kind of stumbled into.
Yeah,
some sort of chemical mixtures.
I'm sure there is, because a lot of them also made antibiotics, where they were just like, oh, this is like a tincture you can put, and it heals your wound faster, but they didn't know it was like an antibiotic.
Yeah. This kind of runs right up the middle of like medicine manning.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that we were mostly looking up just alchemy, it kind of weeded out some of the more,
like holistic stuff.
Yeah.
Because I guess alchemy is kind of like where you have the holistic stuff meets test tubes.
Yeah.
So, instead of just like grinding it up in a mortar and pestle, you're like got your test tubes and you're doing exact measurements and things like that.
Yeah. Which then created modern chemistry.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much they may be intertwined with like metallurgy when people started making swords stronger. And
well, that was like that one lady in her little alchemist book. It said how to melt down metals to make jewelry and stuff.
Yeah.
And if they're working with metals to make more metal, I'm sure it's in there. Melt your mercury, three parts mercury, 1 part lead, 2 parts sulfur. See if you get, gold.
Yeah, don't put too much sulfur in there.
No.
Conjure up the devil.
Yep, it stinks.
So that stinks.
Yeah.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you found some stuff interesting on this episode, and maybe you look around your day-to-day type stuff and what you think might have come out of alchemy. Picking up a book or a newspaper, or getting your syphilis
Taking
shot.
care of. Yeah.
But thanks for listening. Remember, be good to yourselves out there.
Yes, and remember to always look up a quote before you come to the podcast.